Hello everyone. So I got a 22.33 mean at North American Champs, which won the comp. I tried to do daily attempts leading up to this competition starting from mid-April, but during July we had a family trip and I only did 3 attempts in July, which were 22, 27, and DNF. So those results were not that great for me, and that made me pretty nervous for the competition. But I'm pretty thrilled that I was able to pull something good in when it mattered. I think I averaged around just around 23, high 22. So this mean is pretty good for me. So without further ado, let's just get right into the solves. So for the first scramble, I started on the normal, and on R and L axis, there are 4 bad, which are here, 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 and back here. And there are a lot of ways to do 4 move Eos on this axis, like, I don't know, doing R and then stuff, F stuff, B2, R2, stuff like that. But for my solution, I did F to bring 2 bad here, rest 2 are here and here, and I did D and B2 to put all the bad edges on the R layer, and then I finished off EO by doing an R. And here from the UD layer, there isn't a good continuation to DR, so I did a Z prime, and then I noticed that if I just do a U, it reduces to DR minus 4E4C. And then here I switched, and on inverse it looks like this. I have this little block, and here I attached this corner to this unoriented edge by doing B2 R2, and then I get this little case where I have this little block, this block, my corners here and here. So I did an F prime and D2 to make this long line, and then an L2 to make this other line, and I did a B prime and U to finish off DR. And if I do a U prime, it's easy to see that I have pretty good corners. It's just a U2 L2 U2 variation of this case. But I finished the DR off by doing a U for some reason, I don't know. And then I switched to do HTR from the normal scramble. And here, if I do an R2 and a B, it reduces to HTR minus 2E4C, and it's already almost set up. I can just do a U2, and then here I have the trigger set up. I can just do a B prime D2B to finish HTR. And there are a lot of blocks, especially for the yellow side. So here what I did was I attached this block to this square right here, D to L2, and then here I just made this big block U2, and then it's just 3 more moves, and then the last U2 cancels with this move right here. So that was a 7 minus 1 move finish for a 24. The optimal after the DR is actually 11 moves instead of the 12 move solution I found, and it's pretty findable. I should have looked into the DR more, but honestly it's whatever. For the second scramble, I actually started on the inverse scramble, and the bad edges for the RL axis are here, 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 and here. which you can put all of them on the L layer by doing U2 and D, and you can just do an L to solve EO, but I didn't do that because that didn't give anything great. I instead did an L to switch the bad edges from these two to now these two. So they are still in the same spot, but I just did an extra move basically. And then I did a D U2 and then L to finish off the EO. And from here, if you just do a B prime, it reduces to DR minus 2E4C, and it looks like the correct shape, but the E layer misoriented edge is not in a good spot. So here I did an R2 and then DUL2 to set up to the trigger, and then here I just did a B D2B to finish off the DR. And then here it's not set up to an HR trigger yet, but I switched. And on normal scramble, if you just do a D prime, it reduces to HDR minus 2 edges and 4 corners. And then I switched again after that. And then here you have this little HDR block, and all I did was an F2 to set up the this layer, and then by doing an L2 that sets up to the HDR trigger, which I solved like this, D prime D2, D prime B2 D. And then here it's just one more move to 2E2E. Initially I thought I had a 24 because from here I can just cancel into the solid for a 24, but instead of doing that, I came back to the skeleton again. I went to the second spot of the skeleton, which gives this, and the move before is an F2 and a D prime. So what I did was an F2, D2, F2, D2, F2, D2, which was a 6 minus 3 for a 22 to E slice. And then for the E slice, I just redid all the moves, inserted some Y moves for a 22, which was E slice in 0 moves. But I wrote it like this because that's the same solution. Yeah, that ends up becoming the same solution. So going back to the spot, here instead of just doing F2, there's an easy finish that I didn't notice, probably because I was too nervous. You can just do U prime D prime and solve this big block, and U D F2, and then if you just do a D2, that gives a 7 move finish, but these moves end up canceling 1, and these moves end up canceling 2 for a 25 minus 3, which gives a 22. Either way, I was able to find the 22, and it was Woj for the scramble, so I'm pretty happy about that. For the third scramble, I started on the inverse scramble, and then I used the U and D axis for EO. And my bad edges are here, 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 here. So there are 6 bad. And then I noticed that 3 of them are already on the U layer. So if I just do U, that reduces to 4 bad. But from the inverse, continuing from here, it doesn't give any short EOs. So instead, I traced where these bad edges would be after I nis. So this one would be here, this one would go here, this one would go here, and this one would come here. So that means I would have a 3 move EO after I missed. So I did a U and then I missed. And then as I predicted, I do have a 3-move EO, but I didn't like the 3-move EO, so instead I inserted a U2 and did a BD to complete EO in 4 moves. And then from here I did a Z prime. Oh, I did a D prime actually. And then here I did a Z prime, and then I did a B, which we used to DR minus 4E 4C. And then I didn't have a good DR continuation from here, so I switched again. So on inverse scramble, I have this little DR block, and I can just put this corner, attach it to this unoriented piece by doing RB2. And then I now have a same case that I had on the first scramble, which I can solve by attaching this corner to this block to make this bar, and then I attach this corner to this block to make this line, and then I do an RF to finish DR. And then here I noticed that if I just do this, that solves all corners. So this one has good corners. And so I checked if there is a good HDR solution that I can do. And here I actually ended with an F prime, but it's HDR minus 6 edges and 4 corners, which is similar to this trigger, but it's just this instead of this. So what I did to set up to the trigger was I did an R2 and then F2 B2, and from this angle you can see that I have my trigger set up where I can do R, then D2, and then L prime to solve HDR in 18 moves. But then now I just have a 5-move finish from here. So I can just do a U2 from here to get 19 to 3 edges. But instead, if I just do a B prime F, R2, B, F prime, that's just a 5-move finish. And this move, this B, ends up canceling with this B. So it cancels 2 moves in addition to my 23. So that ends up giving a 21. And if I just did a U2 and inserted this skeleton, I would have got a 6 minus 4 on the same spot, which would have yielded a same 21. So yeah, that was my 21. When I got the 21, I had 35 minutes left, but I knew that I would probably win with this 21 because the scramble didn't have too many great things, and 21 is just a pretty nice solve in general, so I was pretty relieved by then. So yeah, these are my reconstructions for my 22.33 winning mean. Now this mean is ranked 5th in the world, which beats my Megaminx world rankings, so I'm pretty happy about that. So thank you guys for watching, and see you on the next video.